Adorable moment Princess Catherine arrives to thousands of cheering crowds at Buckingham Palace. Birds chirped in the gardens surrounding the palace, as if they too knew something exciting was about to happen. On this particular day, people from all corners of the city, and even from faraway countries, had come together, their hearts filled with anticipation. Everyone was waiting for a very special person, Princess Catherine. The news that she would make a public appearance had spread quickly, and the streets near the palace were already buzzing with excitement, even hours before her arrival. Families arrived early, eager to secure a good spot near the palace gates. Parents held the hands of their children, while grandparents carried little ones on their shoulders, making sure they could see everything. Some children had painted faces with small crowns or had tiny Union Jack flags in their hands. Others carried colorful banners with cheerful messages for the princess. Each banner was unique, with drawings of flowers, hearts, and the royal family, showing how much effort people had put into preparing for this special day. The scene was full of life, color, and energy. As the crowd grew, the chatter and laughter became almost musical. People spoke in different accents, from locals who had lived in London their whole lives to visitors from faraway countries who had traveled just to catch a glimpse of the princess. Some were tourists holding cameras, ready to capture every moment. Others were children who could hardly contain their excitement, their faces lighting up every time someone mentioned Princess Catherine's name. The streets were alive with joy, a kind of happiness that only comes when everyone is united in anticipation of something magical. Street performers had also arrived to entertain the crowds while they waited. A brass band played soft, cheerful tunes that drifted through the air, adding a festive feeling to the morning. Children danced a little, spinning and clapping along to the music. Some adults joined in too, laughing as they clapped their hands or tapped their feet. The sound of the band mixed with the voices of the crowd, creating a lively, harmonious atmosphere that seemed to echo off the tall palace walls. The combination of music, laughter, and conversation made the waiting not just bearable but truly enjoyable. Food vendors had set up small stalls along the street, offering snacks and drinks to keep the crowd refreshed. The smell of freshly baked pastries and hot chocolate filled the air, making the scene even more inviting. People shared treats with one another, offering pastries to strangers who were standing nearby. Children nibbled on sweet treats while holding their flags, their eyes bright with excitement. The air was filled with not just the sounds and sights of a celebration, but the smells that made the day feel warm and welcoming. As the minutes passed, the anticipation became almost tangible. People leaned forward to get a better view of the palace gates, whispering to each other about what Princess Catherine might be wearing or what she might say. Some parents told their children stories about the princess, sharing tales of her kindness, her dedication, and the many charitable causes she supported. The children listened wide-eyed, imagining a real-life princess who was not only beautiful but also caring and approachable. This storytelling created a sense of connection between the crowd and the princess, even before she had appeared. The media was also present, with journalists, photographers, and cameramen positioned strategically along the route. Their cameras were ready to capture every wave, every smile, and every little gesture. News vans lined the streets, and reporters spoke softly into microphones, describing the scene for those watching on television or online. Even though the crowd was huge, the media made sure that every moment was recorded with care, knowing that people around the world would soon be watching. Among the crowd, friendships began to form. Strangers chatted about their love for the royal family and shared their excitement for the day ahead. People exchanged stories of previous royal visits they had attended, laughing at small mishaps or memorable moments. Children played together, making new friends as they waited, while adults shared tips on where to stand for the best view. The atmosphere was not just one of waiting, but of connection, community, and shared joy. It was a moment when people from different backgrounds, ages, and places came together, united by their admiration for Princess Catherine. As the time drew nearer, a hush fell over the crowd. People adjusted their positions, standing a little straighter, craning their necks, and holding their banners higher. There was an almost magical pause, a collective breath that everyone seemed to take at the same moment. Even the birds in the garden seemed to quiet down, as if nature itself was aware that something extraordinary was about to happen. Children clutched the hands of their parents a little tighter, their excitement mixed with a small hint of nervousness. The anticipation was electric, but it was a happy kind of nervousness, filled with hope and wonder. Small details made the scene even more special. A group of children had made a long, colorful chain of paper crowns, which they held up proudly. Elderly visitors wore hats decorated with tiny flowers or royal emblems. Tourists held maps and guidebooks, pointing out landmarks while keeping their eyes on the palace gates. Everyone contributed to the beauty of the morning, making it not just about the princess's arrival, but about the shared effort and enthusiasm of the crowd. It felt as if the entire street had transformed into a living celebration, a festival of smiles, excitement, and anticipation. Parents whispered encouraging words to their children, reminding them to wave and smile when the princess arrived. "She loves to see children happy," one parent said. "Just enjoy the moment and she'll smile back at you." The children nodded eagerly, some bouncing slightly on their toes, unable to contain their excitement. The atmosphere was full of love, care, and a sense of community, making the wait feel shorter and the experience even more meaningful. As the morning slowly moved toward the appointed hour, the crowd seemed to grow even more energized. Everyone felt the same thing, that they were about to witness something special, a moment that would be remembered for years to come. The streets were filled with laughter, chatter, and music, and the golden sunlight bathed the palace in a warm glow. Every face reflected hope, joy, and anticipation. Everyone, from the youngest child to the oldest visitor, felt that they were part of something magical, something larger than themselves, a shared celebration of a beloved princess. The excitement reached its peak when the first sight of the royal carriage in the distance caused a ripple of cheers to move through the crowd. People pointed, shouted, and waved, their energy contagious. Cameras clicked, phones recorded, and children waved their flags as high as they could. The moment they had been waiting for was almost here. Everyone leaned forward a little, their eyes fixed on the palace gates, hearts racing with excitement, ready to see Princess Catherine step out and make her grand appearance. And in that moment, the entire scene, the colorful banners, the smiling faces, the laughter, the music, and the golden sunlight, felt alive with anticipation. It was a morning of joy, of hope, and of shared excitement, a morning that would be remembered as the beginning of a truly memorable day. Every single person there, whether young or old, local or visitor, knew that they were about to witness something extraordinary. The air was full of expectation, the streets were alive with happiness, and the hearts of everyone gathered beat with a shared sense of wonder, ready to welcome Princess Catherine in a way that only true admiration and love could create. The moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. In the distance, the gentle clatter of horse hooves echoed down the streets, and a royal carriage slowly came into view. The crowd erupted with cheers and applause, a wave of excitement rolling through the gathered people like the swell of the ocean. Children squealed with joy, some bouncing on their toes, while parents lifted them higher onto their shoulders so they could see better. The energy was contagious. Everywhere you looked, faces were lit up with smiles, and the air seemed to sparkle with happiness. The carriage was beautifully adorned, gleaming under the morning sun. Its polished wheels rolled smoothly over the cobblestones, and the horses' coats shimmered as they trotted in perfect rhythm. The palace guards rode beside the carriage, their uniforms crisp and shining, adding a sense of grandeur to the scene. Even the birds above seemed to fly in rhythm with the procession, as if nature itself was celebrating this special moment. People pointed excitedly, waving flags and banners, their voices rising in unison to welcome the princess. Inside the carriage, Princess Catherine sat gracefully, her posture elegant yet relaxed. She wore a soft, pastel-colored coat that complemented her gentle smile, and a matching hat perched delicately on her head. Her hair was styled perfectly, flowing softly over her shoulders. As she spotted the crowd, she raised her hand in a warm, gentle wave. Immediately, the cheering intensified, and cameras flashed from every corner. The princess's presence seemed to light up the entire street, and even those who had never seen her in person before felt a sense of awe and admiration. Children clutched their little flags tightly, waving them as high as they could. Some shouted her name, their voices filled with excitement, while others simply stared, mouths open in amazement. Parents held their children close, smiling at their reactions, while grandparents gently tapped their hands together, their eyes glistening with joy. Even the tourists who had traveled from faraway countries joined in the applause, feeling the thrill of witnessing a real-life princess up close. The atmosphere was electric, a perfect mixture of happiness, respect, and sheer wonder. As the carriage rolled closer to the palace steps, Princess Catherine continued to wave, making eye contact with as many people as she could. She smiled at a young boy who held a hand-drawn portrait of her, nodding and mouthing words of praise. The boy's eyes widened, and he waved even more energetically, feeling as though the princess had acknowledged him personally. Nearby, a group of schoolchildren held up a colorful banner with hearts and flowers, and the princess waved to them with both hands, laughing softly at their excitement. Each gesture, no matter how small, seemed to carry genuine warmth, and the crowd could feel it. Photographers and journalists worked diligently, trying to capture every angle of this unforgettable moment. Cameras clicked rapidly, some journalists calling out descriptions to their viewers, explaining the princess's attire, her expressions, and the way she interacted with the crowd. The crowd didn't mind the attention. They were happy to be part of something so memorable. Even the youngest children, fascinated by the flashing cameras, seemed to understand that this was a special occasion, something that would be remembered for years. One of the most heartwarming moments came when Princess Catherine leaned slightly toward the edge of the carriage to greet a little girl who had brought a small bouquet of flowers. The girl's hands trembled as she offered them, and the princess accepted them with a bright smile, gently patting the girl's head. The crowd erupted in applause, and many parents whispered to their children, "See, she is so kind and gentle." The princess then handed the bouquet to a palace aide, ensuring the little girl felt proud and special. It was a simple gesture, but it created a ripple of joy throughout the crowd. People around the princess were also noticing the little details that made her presence so relatable. She adjusted her hat slightly when a gust of wind blew, laughed softly when a child waved vigorously, and nodded in appreciation at the many handmade signs that lined the streets. Some signs read, "Welcome, Princess Catherine," while others had drawings of crowns, flowers, and the royal family. Each one was unique, and the princess made it a point to acknowledge them all with her bright, genuine smile. The crowd loved this personal touch. It made her seem not just like royalty, but like someone who truly cared about the people she was visiting. As the carriage came to a slow stop in front of the palace steps, Princess Catherine stepped out gracefully. The crowd's cheers intensified, echoing off the palace walls in a joyful symphony. Children waved their flags and clutched their parents' hands tightly, their excitement almost too much to contain. Tourists pointed excitedly, some taking photos and videos, while others simply watched in awe, taking in every detail of the princess's entrance. Every gesture, from the slightest wave to the gentlest smile, was met with loud applause and heartfelt cheers. The palace guards formed a perfect line, standing at attention as Princess Catherine made her way up the steps. The crowd could see her interacting with everyone in sight, nodding, smiling, and occasionally bending slightly to speak with someone closer to her. One elderly woman waved a small handkerchief, and Catherine responded with a wave and a kind word. A young boy held up a drawing he had made of the palace, and Catherine knelt down to admire it, praising the boy's talent and creativity. The crowd watched these interactions in amazement, feeling the warmth and sincerity that the princess radiated. Many people recorded these moments on their phones, eager to share them with friends and family. Social media buzzed instantly with posts and videos of the princess's arrival, her elegant attire, and her engaging interactions with the crowd. The words adorable, graceful, and kind appeared repeatedly in comments, as viewers around the world experienced the same excitement as those who were lucky enough to be there in person. Even those watching from far away could feel the magic of the moment through the photos and videos shared online. As Princess Catherine continued her walk along the palace steps, she took time to wave to the crowd from both sides. Children waved back enthusiastically, some blowing kisses, while parents smiled and clapped. The princess seemed genuinely delighted to be there, her joy reflecting the excitement of the people around her. She paused for a moment to speak softly to a little boy who had brought a toy crown, complimenting his creativity and his effort to honor the occasion. The boy's eyes sparkled, and his parents whispered their gratitude, proud of their child's special interaction with the princess. The crowd was not just observing, they were participating in the celebration. People sang quietly, clapped in rhythm, and called out cheerful greetings. Some children had practiced a small song for the princess, and when she smiled in their direction, they began singing together, their voices carrying through the air. Catherine laughed softly, clapping along with them and encouraging their performance. This exchange of energy between the princess and the crowd made the moment unforgettable. It was not just a royal appearance, but a shared experience filled with happiness and connection. Even as the morning progressed, the excitement did not fade. The crowd remained lively, talking excitedly about the princess's gestures, her elegant attire, and the moments of kindness they had witnessed. People compared notes about who had seen the princess wave, who had captured the best photograph, and which interactions had been the most memorable. The energy was contagious, spreading from person to person like a warm breeze. Strangers shared smiles, families cheered together, and children giggled in delight, all connected by the simple joy of witnessing a beloved princess in person. As the princess moved closer to the palace entrance, she continued to engage with the crowd. She smiled at a little girl holding a stuffed toy, gave a nod to a young boy holding a handmade crown, and waved at elderly visitors who had come to see her from nearby towns. Each interaction, no matter how brief, seemed genuine and heartfelt. The crowd could sense that this was more than a ceremonial appearance. It was a moment of connection, a celebration of kindness, and a chance to share happiness with a princess who truly cared about her people. The carriage, the waving, the laughter, and the bright sunlight combined to create a magical atmosphere. Every detail seemed perfect. The polished horses, the elegant attire, the smiling crowd, and the gentle breeze that carried the cheers and laughter through the streets. People could hardly believe they were witnessing such a beautiful, heartwarming scene. Children held their parents' hands, grandparents leaned on canes with smiles on their faces, and tourists raised their cameras again, capturing the moment for eternity. By the time Princess Catherine reached the center of the palace steps, the crowd had been cheering, waving, and celebrating for several minutes straight. And yet, no one seemed tired or impatient. The energy was still high, and the joy was still palpable. People shared smiles, laughed at little moments, and clapped in rhythm with the princess's movements. It was a scene filled with life, warmth, and celebration, a morning that would be remembered for years to come by everyone present. As Princess Catherine reached the center of the palace steps, the excitement of the crowd did not fade. In fact, it seemed to grow even stronger. People leaned forward, waving their flags and banners as high as they could, hoping to catch her attention. Children squealed with delight, some bouncing with joy, while parents lifted them higher so they could see the princess more clearly. The entire scene was alive with energy, colors, and movement. Every face in the crowd reflected wonder and anticipation, and the air seemed to shimmer with happiness. Princess Catherine's presence was magnetic. She radiated warmth and kindness, her gentle smile spreading across her face as she took in the sea of waving hands and smiling faces. Every gesture she made was filled with thoughtfulness. When she spotted a small child clutching a handmade sign, she leaned slightly toward the edge of the steps, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. The child's eyes widened in surprise and joy as the princess waved and mouthed a soft hello. The moment was simple, yet it felt magical, an instant connection between royalty and the people she had come to greet. Some of the most heartwarming moments came from the little interactions that the princess shared with children. A young girl, no older than 6, had brought a small bouquet of flowers, carefully wrapped in colorful paper. Shyly, she extended it toward Princess Catherine. The princess bent down gently, accepted the bouquet with a warm smile, and whispered a few kind words to the child. The girl's face lit up with delight, and the crowd erupted in applause. Parents nearby whispered to their children, pointing out how kind and approachable the princess was, reinforcing the idea that she was not just a figure of royalty, but a real person who cared about others. Nearby, a group of schoolchildren had prepared a small performance for the princess. They held up a long, colorful banner with messages of welcome and hand-drawn hearts and flowers. When Princess Catherine noticed them, she waved with both hands and clapped along with their enthusiasm. The children began singing softly, their voices carrying in the crisp morning air. Catherine's smile widened, and she gently nodded to encourage them, showing appreciation for their effort and creativity. The crowd cheered, not just for the princess, but for the children who had taken the time to celebrate her arrival. Even the adults in the crowd felt touched by the princess's warmth. A young boy had drawn a detailed sketch of Buckingham Palace and held it up for her to see. Princess Catherine knelt gracefully to admire it, pointing out the parts she liked most and praising his talent. The boy's parents watched in awe, beaming with pride as their child received recognition from someone so admired and respected. Moments like these, small yet significant, made the entire event feel personal, connecting the royal family with ordinary people in a way that was rare and beautiful. Photographers and journalists captured these interactions carefully, understanding the importance of these seemingly small gestures. Every smile, every wave, every soft word exchanged was documented, and soon these moments would be shared with people around the world. Social media posts quickly began circulating, filled with photos of the princess laughing with children, admiring their artwork, and accepting gifts with grace. The words adorable, kind, and gentle appeared repeatedly in captions as viewers marveled at her ability to connect with everyone so naturally. Princess Catherine didn't rush through the crowd. She took her time, making sure to notice as many people as possible. A young boy had crafted a small paper crown for her, and when she saw it, she crouched slightly to acknowledge his effort, complimenting him on his creativity. The boy's face lit up, and he waved enthusiastically, thrilled that the princess had taken the time to notice his gift. Nearby, an elderly woman held a handkerchief, waving it gently as Catherine gave her a kind smile and a nod. Each interaction, no matter how brief, was heartfelt and sincere, making the crowd feel appreciated and valued. The children, especially, were captivated by every move the princess made. Some held their little flags tightly, waving as energetically as they could. Others blew kisses, hoping that she would notice. Catherine responded to each gesture with warmth, her soft laughter carrying across the crowd. It was easy to see that she genuinely enjoyed engaging with the people who had come to see her. Her ability to connect with children, in particular, made her presence feel magical, like a storybook princess who had stepped into real life. One particularly touching moment involved a young boy who had brought a stuffed animal dressed like a royal guard. Catherine noticed him immediately and crouched down to admire the toy. She complimented him on how carefully he had dressed it, and even pretended to speak to the toy as if it were alive. The boy laughed shyly, thrilled by the princess's playful interaction. The crowd around them clapped and cheered, delighted by the charming exchange. These small, joyful moments made the experience unforgettable for everyone present. Even the adults felt inspired by the princess's gestures. People began talking to each other about her kindness and attention to detail. Strangers smiled and shared stories about the most memorable moments they had witnessed so far. Some parents whispered to their children about how important it was to be polite, kind, and thoughtful, using Catherine's actions as an example. The atmosphere was not just celebratory, it was also educational and heartwarming, filled with lessons about empathy, generosity, and human connection. The palace guards, standing tall and dignified, watched the interactions with quiet admiration. Their usual stoic expressions softened slightly, and some even exchanged smiles with members of the crowd. The combination of royal tradition and human warmth created a unique balance, an elegant, orderly ceremony enriched by moments of genuine joy and connection. The crowd appreciated this harmony, feeling that they were witnessing something truly special. As the morning progressed, more small gestures added to the sense of wonder. Catherine paused to admire a handmade card decorated with drawings of crowns and flowers. She took a moment to compliment the effort and creativity that had gone into it, showing appreciation for the thoughtfulness of even the youngest members of the crowd. Nearby, a little girl shyly held out a friendship bracelet, and Catherine accepted it with a gracious smile, promising to cherish it. The crowd cheered, delighted by the seemingly small but deeply meaningful moments of connection. Everywhere the princess went, she radiated warmth. She nodded to those who waved, smiled at those who cheered, and clapped for the children who sang. Parents and grandparents whispered excitedly to each other, noting how approachable and kind she seemed. Even the tourists, some of whom had traveled great distances to witness her appearance, expressed admiration not only for her elegance, but for her genuine personality. The experience felt interactive. The crowd didn't just watch, they participated, and Catherine's engagement made everyone feel like a part of the celebration. The atmosphere remained electric as the princess continued her journey along the palace steps. Children pointed out to their parents the moments that excited them the most, while adults captured photos, wanting to remember every detail. The crowd seemed to breathe together, a collective heartbeat of joy, excitement, and admiration. Every wave, every smile, every soft word from Princess Catherine added to the magic of the day. People cheered not only for the grandeur of the royal visit, but for the simple, human moments that made it so special. At one point, Catherine stopped to greet a group of schoolchildren who had made small, handmade gifts for her. She crouched to their level, taking the time to thank each child individually, praising their effort and creativity. The children beamed with pride, feeling as though they had truly connected with someone extraordinary. Their parents watched with pride and joy, capturing the moment on their phones so they could remember it forever. The energy of the crowd swelled with applause and cheering, filling the air with laughter and excitement. As the visit continued, it became clear that what made Princess Catherine so beloved was not just her elegance or status, but her ability to create personal connections. She noticed the little things, the small banners, the handmade gifts, the smiles and waves. She responded with kindness, attention, and warmth, making each person feel seen and valued. These interactions, simple yet profound, were what made the day unforgettable. People left not only with photographs and videos, but with memories of a princess who truly cared about the people she served. The morning progressed with more heartwarming exchanges. Catherine waved to everyone she could, stopped to admire children's drawings, and shared soft words of encouragement. She laughed with children, complimented gifts, and acknowledged the effort of those who had come from far away. Each interaction added a layer of magic to the day, making it feel like a storybook moment brought to life. The crowd's excitement never waned. If anything, it grew stronger as they realized the princess's warmth extended to every single person present. Even as the time passed and the morning moved toward midday, people remained engaged and cheerful. The energy was contagious, spreading from children to adults, from tourists to locals. Conversations bubbled with excitement, laughter filled the streets, and smiles were everywhere. Everyone knew they had witnessed something special, not just a royal appearance, but a genuine display of kindness, warmth, and human connection. The morning had become a celebration of joy, shared moments, and memories that would last a lifetime. The morning air at Buckingham Palace was still filled with excitement, even as Princess Catherine continued her engagement with the crowd. What had started as a simple royal appearance had transformed into a genuine celebration of warmth and connection. Every person who had gathered near the gates felt a sense of anticipation, eager to share a moment with the princess, and Catherine did not disappoint. She moved along the palace steps with grace, acknowledging everyone she could see, making each person feel as if they mattered. Her interactions with the crowd were not hurried or distant. She paused frequently, leaning slightly to speak with those closest to her. Her eyes sparkled with interest. Her smile radiated kindness, and her gestures, whether a small wave or a soft nod, felt deeply personal. People noticed the difference immediately. She wasn't simply performing her duties. She was genuinely present, sharing a moment of connection with everyone who had come to see her. One of the most touching moments involved a small boy who had brought a handmade card for the princess. Catherine noticed the card immediately and bent down to the boy's level. She examined the card carefully, pointing out the colorful drawings of flowers and crowns. She complimented his effort, telling him how thoughtful it was to create something so special. The boy's eyes widened in amazement, and a shy smile spread across his face. His parents, watching nearby, whispered words of pride and joy, seeing their child's happiness reflected in Catherine's reaction. The crowd around them clapped softly, sharing in the moment of genuine delight. Nearby, a group of schoolchildren had created a long banner that read, "Welcome, Princess Catherine." The banner was decorated with hearts, flowers, and small drawings of the palace. Catherine waved warmly at the children and clapped her hands to show her appreciation. Then she knelt slightly to compliment the students individually, making each child feel recognized. The children's laughter rang out across the courtyard as they waved enthusiastically, thrilled that their effort had been acknowledged by the princess herself. Even the adults standing nearby couldn't help but smile, touched by the simple joy that radiated from the interaction. It was not only children who captured Catherine's attention. Adults, too, received her warmth and attention. An elderly couple had traveled from a nearby town to see her, holding a small bouquet of flowers. Catherine paused to greet them, taking the flowers with a gracious smile and thanking them for their thoughtfulness. She spoke softly to the couple, exchanging a few kind words that were audible even to those standing nearby. Their eyes glistened with emotion, and the crowd around them clapped quietly, appreciating the princess's genuine care for people of all ages. One particularly memorable interaction involved a young boy who had brought a small stuffed toy dressed like a palace guard. Catherine noticed the toy immediately and crouched down to admire it. She complimented the boy on how carefully he had dressed it and even pretended to speak to the toy as if it were alive. The boy giggled shyly, delighted by the playful exchange, while the crowd erupted in soft laughter and applause. Moments like this, seemingly small, created lasting memories for everyone present. People talked about them for hours afterward, sharing stories of the princess's charm and attention to detail. Even as she moved from one group to another, Catherine made sure that no gesture went unnoticed. She nodded to those waving flags, smiled at people holding signs, and clapped along with children singing songs she had inspired. Every action seemed effortless yet heartfelt, leaving the crowd in awe of her ability to connect so meaningfully with people from all walks of life. It was clear that her presence was more than ceremonial. It was personal, sincere, and unforgettable. Photographers and journalists continued to capture every moment, documenting the princess's interactions for audiences around the world. Cameras clicked as she waved, bent down to greet children or accepted gifts. Journalists spoke softly into microphones, describing the warmth and authenticity of her presence. Social media platforms were flooded with posts highlighting the princess's kindness, her playful gestures, and her thoughtful responses to each person she encountered. Even those watching from afar could feel the sincerity and joy of the occasion through the images and videos being shared in real time. Catherine's ability to make each interaction feel special was not limited to gestures. She listened carefully when people spoke to her, nodding in understanding and responding with encouraging words. A young girl shyly explained that she had made a drawing of the palace for the princess, and Catherine crouched down, examining it with visible delight. She praised the attention to detail, complimented the colors, and encouraged the girl to continue expressing her creativity. The girl's face lit up with happiness, and the crowd applauded the small but meaningful moment. Even the smallest gestures did not escape the attention of the crowd. Catherine adjusted her hat slightly when a gust of wind blew, laughed softly at a child waving too energetically, and gestured politely to someone trying to take a photograph. These subtle acts of awareness and consideration made her seem approachable and relatable, reinforcing the admiration people already felt. Parents pointed out these actions to their children, highlighting how thoughtful and kind the princess was, using the moment as a lesson in grace and empathy. The interactions were not limited to those standing directly in front of the palace steps. Catherine extended her attention to people farther back, waving and acknowledging their presence with a bright, genuine smile. Children in the middle of the crowd waved small flags energetically, hoping for a response, and Catherine made sure to meet their eyes whenever possible. Tourists from other countries waved and called out greetings, and she responded with warmth, bridging the gap between royal protocol and personal connection. Every wave, every nod, every smile was met with renewed energy from the crowd, creating a continuous cycle of joy and engagement. At one point, Catherine paused to admire a group of schoolchildren who had created small handmade crowns. She crouched down and complimented each child individually, taking a moment to speak with them and encouraging their creativity. The children laughed and waved, proud of the attention they were receiving. Parents nearby clapped quietly, appreciating how Catherine made each child feel important and valued. The crowd watched with admiration, recognizing that her ability to engage with people on a personal level was extraordinary. Catherine's gestures of kindness were simple, yet profoundly impactful. A young boy shyly held out a friendship bracelet, and she accepted it with a warm smile, promising to keep it as a memory of the day. An elderly woman presented a handmade card, and Catherine carefully examined it, praising the effort and thoughtfulness behind it. These moments, though small in themselves, created a lasting impression on everyone present. They demonstrated that true connection comes not from grand speeches or formal appearances, but from genuine attention, warmth, and kindness. The crowd seemed to sense that this was more than a royal visit. It was an experience of shared happiness, a celebration of human connection and joy. People began talking to each other about the moments they had witnessed, sharing stories of Catherine's gestures and the children she had acknowledged. Strangers smiled at each other, parents pointed out particularly memorable interactions to their children, and laughter rang out frequently. It was a community coming together, united by admiration for a princess who had taken the time to engage with everyone personally. As the morning continued, Catherine continued to move along the palace steps, stopping to greet more people. She knelt for children, accepted gifts, complimented artwork, and encouraged young singers who performed softly for her. Every moment was filled with laughter, clapping, and cheers from the crowd. Her presence created an environment where everyone felt valued and seen, making the day feel magical and unforgettable. Even as the sun climbed higher in the sky, the energy of the crowd remained strong. People laughed, talked excitedly, and shared their experiences with each other. The children continued to wave their flags, the adults continued to clap, and tourists continued to capture photos and videos. Catherine's thoughtful interactions had made everyone feel included in the celebration. It was not just a royal appearance. It was a day filled with kindness, warmth, and connection. By the time Catherine began to prepare for her departure from the palace steps, the crowd was filled with a mixture of joy, gratitude, and admiration. People had experienced moments of pure delight, witnessing a princess who was not only elegant and graceful, but also approachable, kind, and genuinely caring. Families shared stories about the gestures they had witnessed, children talked about the moments that had made them happiest, and tourists marveled at the human warmth that had accompanied the regal ceremony. Even as Catherine's visit came to a close, the memory of her interactions lingered in the hearts of everyone present. The warmth, the smiles, the gentle waves, and the personal attention she had given to each person created a lasting impression. It was clear that this was more than a public appearance. It was a moment of genuine human connection, a shared celebration of kindness and joy that would be remembered for years to come. As the morning moved toward midday, the excitement at Buckingham Palace slowly began to shift. From anticipation to a gentle, heartfelt farewell. Princess Catherine had spent hours greeting the crowd, waving, smiling, and interacting with children and adults alike. Her presence had filled the streets with warmth, laughter, and joy, creating memories that would linger for years. Now, as she prepared to leave, there was a sense of both happiness and gentle sadness among the people who had gathered to see her. The crowd remained lively, even as Catherine moved toward her carriage. Children clutched their little flags tightly, waving as energetically as they could. Parents lifted their kids onto their shoulders so they could get one last glimpse of the princess. The air was filled with chatter, laughter, and occasional bursts of applause as people tried to capture every final moment. Tourists held cameras high, snapping photos and recording videos, while locals shared their excitement with friends and family nearby. Even as the event was coming to an end, the energy and happiness in the crowd were far from fading. Princess Catherine's departure was filled with the same grace and warmth that had characterized her arrival. She paused along the palace steps to wave at those who were furthest away, ensuring that even the people at the back felt seen and appreciated. Her smile never wavered, and her gentle nods seemed to convey a personal acknowledgement to each individual. Children squealed with delight, waving more energetically as if to make sure she noticed them. Catherine's ability to make every person feel special, even in a crowd of thousands, was remarkable, and the crowd responded with renewed applause and cheers. Along her path, Catherine continued to engage in small, heartwarming interactions. A young girl held out a small bouquet of flowers as a gift. Catherine bent down gracefully to accept them, whispering a few kind words to the child. Nearby, a little boy shyly showed her a drawing of the palace, and she crouched to examine it, complimenting his creativity and praising his effort. Each interaction, though brief, carried a sense of genuine attention and care that left a lasting impression on everyone present. Parents whispered to their children, pointing out how meaningful it was to treat others with kindness and appreciation. The crowd's response was extraordinary. People clapped, cheered, and even laughed at the small moments of playful interaction. Children waved their flags and banners, some blowing kisses, hoping for a final acknowledgement. Tourists and locals alike stood side by side, sharing in the celebration of Catherine's presence. The entire scene felt like a living storybook, a real-life fairy tale that had been made magical not by grandeur alone, but by the warmth, attention, and human connection that the princess had shared throughout the morning. Even the palace staff and guards could not help but smile at the scene. The usual formality of their duties seemed softened by the joy and excitement surrounding Catherine's departure. Guards, standing tall and stoic at their posts, occasionally exchanged glances and smiles as they witnessed the sincere interactions between the princess and the crowd. The energy in the air was contagious, spreading from children to adults, from locals to tourists, creating a shared sense of joy that transcended the boundaries of social status or distance. As Catherine neared the royal carriage, she took one last moment to wave broadly at the crowd. Her gestures were gentle yet expressive, ensuring that everyone felt acknowledged. Children waved their flags frantically, hoping for a final connection, and Catherine responded with a bright smile and a soft nod. Parents lifted their children higher to make sure they could be seen, and the crowd erupted into cheers that echoed against the palace walls. The collective energy of the crowd was both jubilant and tender, a reflection of the admiration and affection they felt for the princess. One of the most memorable moments of her departure occurred when a young boy held out a small stuffed animal dressed in a royal outfit. Catherine crouched down to admire the toy, complimenting the boy on how carefully he had dressed it. She pretended to speak to the toy playfully, which caused the boy to laugh shyly. The surrounding crowd joined in the laughter and applause, appreciating the warmth and playfulness of the interaction. Moments like these were small but significant, leaving an impression on everyone present that would last far beyond the morning. Catherine's attention to detail and her ability to make each person feel seen were evident in every gesture. She nodded to those waving signs, smiled at people who had traveled from far away, and acknowledged children performing songs or showing handmade gifts. Even the smallest acts of recognition, accepting a flower, complimenting a drawing, or waving to someone in the back, created a ripple effect of happiness throughout the crowd. Parents used these moments as gentle lessons for their children, showing how kindness, thoughtfulness, and attention to others could brighten someone's day. The carriage slowly rolled forward, signaling that it was time for Catherine to depart. The crowd's cheers reached a new level of intensity, a mixture of joy and reluctant farewell. People waved their flags and banners, shouted the princess's name, and clapped continuously. Catherine, seated gracefully inside the carriage, waved one final time. Her smile radiated warmth, and her eyes glimmered with appreciation for the thousands of people who had gathered to welcome her. The connection she had established with the crowd was palpable, as if each wave and each smile carried a message of gratitude and care. As the carriage moved away from the palace steps, the crowd continued to cheer, some waving until the wheels disappeared from view. Children blew kisses, adults clapped, and tourists recorded the final moments, knowing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. Even those who had been further back in the crowd felt included in the experience, having seen Catherine's gestures and warmth reach every corner of the gathering. It was a moment of shared joy, a celebration of human connection and kindness that transcended the formality of the royal visit. The atmosphere lingered long after the princess had left. People continued talking about the moments they had witnessed, sharing stories with neighbors, friends, and family. Children excitedly recounted the gestures Catherine had made, the smiles she had given, and the playful interactions that had made them feel special. Parents reflected on how meaningful it was for their children to witness such genuine kindness and warmth from someone so admired and respected. Tourists, too, shared their experiences on social media, spreading the joy of the moment to audiences around the world. Even the simple details of the morning, the waving flags, the handmade banners, the laughter of children, and the smiles of adults, remained vivid in people's memories. The visit had been more than just a royal appearance. It had been a celebration of humanity, kindness, and connection. Every person present had felt part of something special, a moment that would stay with them for a lifetime. The warmth and grace of Princess Catherine had created a story worth remembering, a story of joy, engagement, and shared happiness. Families lingered for a while, reluctant to leave the magic behind. Children continued to wave their flags, parents talked softly about the moments that had touched them most, and tourists snapped a few final photos before heading away. Even as people slowly began to disperse, there was a sense of contentment and fulfillment. They had witnessed not only the elegance and beauty of a princess, but also her ability to connect with people in a meaningful and heartfelt way. By the time the streets began to clear, the sense of celebration had not faded. People carried with them stories, memories, and photographs of the morning. They talked about the playful interactions, the gentle gestures, and the sincere attention that had made each moment unforgettable. Children continued to mimic Catherine's waves, parents reflected on the kindness they had witnessed, and tourists shared their experiences with fellow travelers. The visit had created a ripple effect of positivity, spreading beyond the palace gates into homes, neighborhoods, and communities. The media captured every detail, highlighting the moments of warmth, playfulness, and genuine connection. Articles and social media posts celebrated Catherine's ability to make each person feel special, emphasizing the small gestures that had left a lasting impression. People around the world could see and feel the joy that had filled Buckingham Palace that morning, sharing in the excitement and admiration for a princess who had combined elegance with heartfelt humanity. Even days after the event, those who had attended continued to talk about the morning. Parents recounted the moments their children had experienced. Children proudly showed off their flags and drawings, and locals shared the stories with neighbors who had not been able to attend. The experience had left a lasting impact, demonstrating that the presence of someone kind, attentive, and genuine could transform a simple visit into a cherished memory for thousands. As the day came to a close, the memories of Princess Catherine's visit lingered in the hearts of everyone present. The warmth, laughter, and joy of the morning had created a shared experience that went far beyond the ceremonial aspects of royalty. People had witnessed something truly extraordinary, a princess who connected with her people through kindness, attention, and genuine care. The visit would be remembered not only for its grandeur, but for the human moments that made it truly magical. And so, as the sun climbed higher and the streets gradually emptied, Buckingham Palace stood as a silent witness to the morning's joy. The banners fluttered in the breeze, the children's flags had been waved one last time, and the echoes of laughter and applause lingered in the air. The day had been more than a royal appearance. It had been a celebration of connection, warmth, and the simple but profound power of kindness. For everyone who had been there, it was a day they would never forget. A day when Princess Catherine had turned a morning visit into a story of joy and human warmth that would be remembered for a lifetime.